There are intense arguments and disputes taking place about whether Islam is a part of Europe or not, and about how European law may be perceived as un-Islamic. For many like myself, who made numerous positive experiences in both European and Muslim societies, these disputes can be very unfortunate. This series is about promoting understanding and dialogue between both Europe and Muslims for our mutual benefit. Hello dear viewers and welcome to a new series on the Alexis on Arabia and Beyond channel titled Is Islam a part of Germany or is it already a part of Europe? I once heard a conservative right-wing politician answer the question as to whether Islam was a part of Germany or not with roughly the following words: I don't think that Islam is a part of Germany at the moment, but whether it will be in the future, I do not know. I'm not sure of the exact intention of his words, but it seemed like a statement which emphasized that it depends on Muslims if Islam can be a part of Germany or not. The topic of Muslim integration into Western societies fascinates me, and this interview intensified my already very active engagement with this issue. So in 2019, I traveled to Iraq and conducted interviews with Shia scholars and an Ayatollah on Islam, issues of Muslims integrating into European societies, women's rights, and issues of Muslim and non-Muslim relations. I also met with a high-ranking legal expert and asked him whether Europe should be afraid of Sharia law. He said that he did not understand the question, so I asked him again as to whether Europe should be afraid of Muslim immigrants introducing elements of Islamic Sharia law into the West. He replied by saying that Sharia law already exists in Europe for nearly 1,000 years and introduced me to the discoveries by historians who researched the gradual influence of Islamic law on European law and how elements of the Sharia were gradually integrated into the legal framework of the Western world. Completely surprised by this, as the topic of whether Islam is a part of Europe or not is one of heated discussions in Europe, I traveled back to Germany and started my own research on this topic. I discovered that far from the awareness of the general public, over 100 and counting books have already been published on this topic, discussing it in greater detail. I soon stumbled on the work and research of the likes of Professor John Makdisi from the St. Thomas University School of Law in Florida, who did extensive research on the topic of Islamic influence on European law. The links to more information on this topic are provided below this video. Now, we often hear of concerns that Muslims may reject European law because it's not Islamic enough, but this is far away from the truth, as European law may be far more Islamic than we initially think. Why is this topic so important? Many discussions in Europe, and especially Germany, on the topic of whether Islam is a part of Europe or not are based on understandable emotions, but how do they stand up to scientific scrutiny? In this series, we will explore how Sharia law was introduced into Europe, first by the Byzantine Empire, then by the Crusaders on the return from the Middle East, then by seafaring merchants, and by interaction of Europe with Muslims from the Middle Ages up to today. Some scientists even go as far as to say that Islamic influences led not only to new legal regulations of justice, but reduced the influence of feudal rulers in Europe over their citizens, and paved the way for the democratization of Europe. We will explore how Muslims understood their faith differently in the past and in a way in which Europe could reap the benefits of the new ideas which the Islamic faith introduced to the world. However, while elements of Islam could fully blossom in Europe, negative events in the Middle East led to a new interpretation of the faith, which led to the many differences between Europe and many Muslim countries today. These were so evident and led a Muslim scholar named Muhammad Abduh to say on his stay in Europe around the 1900s that in Europe he went to the West and saw Islam, but no Muslims. When he got back to the East, he saw Muslims, but no Islam. In this entire discussion around tolerance and understanding around Islam in Europe, it is important to remember two things. On the one side, Europe should remain open to new constructive ideas as it once was and often has been. But more importantly, Muslims need to self-reflect and develop ways on how to once again become a constructive influence on the development of Europe. By adopting this approach of dialogue despite reservations by non-Muslims about Islam, Muslims can also not just improve relations with their fellow citizens in Europe, but also between the West and the Middle East. The key for Muslims is not to overwhelm non-Muslims with their Islamic faith, but integrate constructively into society. This may take time, but researching and following examples in history is a map to follow so that Islam can remain a predominantly positive influence on Europe, our mutual home. So join us on our next episode where we start looking at the gradual transfer of elements of Sharia law into European law. See you then.